Hello everyone, my name is Fabian Bormann and I'd like to welcome you to the 19th edition of our Open Office Hours. The first part of the meeting is most of the time us presenting something and sharing our ideas and thoughts and insights. And the second part of the meeting is a general Q&A session. Today, it's the Higher Insurance Lab, the HAL team of Cardano Foundation, represented by Arnaud and Paolo. And they will unveil their project with the codename Proof of Provenance. With that, I would like to pass over to Arnaud.
Thank you, Fabian. I think, so I will keep it short and sweet to give time maybe to questions or maybe to other topics you want to bring on the table, and also to give more time for the thing we love and care about, which is basically code. So Paolo will give us a demo of some stuff we have been doing. What I will try to do, I guess you see my slides, right? So we have prepared a bunch of slides to try to give you the bigger context. So as usual, start with why we are starting this project and why we think it matters, and why we are seeking feedback and talking about it to the community. We'll explain a couple of use cases, concrete use cases we are thinking of working on, and then we'll talk about the how, which will be presented by Paolo, and which boils down somehow to tracking facts, quote unquote, on Cardano, and then potential next steps. So I will try to keep it short for the presentation, and so that we move to the technical side. So as to the why, I guess I won't break any secrets by stating some facts about the open source software state of affair. The first fact is the fact that open source software is centralized. I think, I don't. This is just made up statistics, but I'm probably not too far off from the reality, saying that 99% or 100% of development projects related to Cardano are on GitHub, and not even related to Cardano. Maybe a bit less if we take into account the fact that Linux itself is not really on GitHub. So, but whatever. And we all know why, right? It's super convenient. It simplifies the development because now you have a single repository. I mean, like in the good old days of Subversion or CDS, for those of us who have gray hair. And in the end, it's too convenient in a way. It's so easy to use. It provides all kinds of tools like continuous integration, issues, wiki, whatnot. Another fact, which is also quite uncontroversial and well known, is the fact that GitHub is a company which is owned by Microsoft, which is a US-based company and which is liable to US laws and regulations. And unless you have been living in a cave for the past 6 months, you might be aware that the actual policy of the United States is maybe not so clear anymore. And it turns out that what happened to, I would say, dangerous countries or people back in, a few years ago could happen also to people who are not so dangerous anymore, right? Or to us, basically. So, decentralization is kind of problematic. Another fact that we all know, we all know this meme, right? Open source software is fragile. It's basically a whole tower based on some part of the projects. And even though we know that 99% of the open source developers are usually good people that mostly care about, recognition and technical excellence and being part of a community, we are still left in a situation where governance of open source is somewhat ill-defined, just inside the Cardano community itself. It's not entirely clear who owns what and who drives what and how. Who decides what to do for, the ledger? Who decides? We have some process, but who is responsible for it? Who are the people implementing all this stuff we care about? What is their responsibility? And therefore, it seemed like a question to ask is how to preserve this trust, how to preserve and foster trust and responsible behavior. I won't go into details, but this line of work and this idea was kind of triggered with things which happened in the past about supply chain attacks that we are aware of, and we could discuss, and even people randomly dropping support of a project, or so the whole question of providing transparency and building trust on transparency is a big question. And I mean the kind of conclusion or the trade-off is that we are currently trading ownership, control, and somehow responsibility for convenience by centralizing everything and using all kind of super sophisticated and very easy to use infrastructure. And it seems to me like in the case of Cardano, this is a bit sad. When you look at Cardano, another maybe a bit more controversial statement, but unfortunately, which is true, is the fact that, well, there is not much traffic on Cardano, right? This chain is not much used. Okay, the orange line, which is a train, I also made it up, but it doesn't go in the right direction, in my humble opinion. So there is room for using more Cardano. Also, a thing which it's kind of maybe a bit even more controversial is the fact that it's not so easy to sell Cardano to the outside world. Having concrete use cases, try to onboard more people is not so easy. And the developer experience on Cardano is okay. I say it's bad. I also say it's improving thanks to tools like Aiken, Yassi DevKit, and other tools that other people are building. And I'm sorry if I'm forgetting them because that's not the intention. But overall, it's not. I mean, It's not insulting anyone in the Cardano community to state that development of anything on Cardano is hard. It's not trivial, and it requires all the time. So that the idea that we probably want to do more dogfooding, and we probably want, especially as people who are part of an organization who is supposed to be to spearhead the development of Cardano. So the Cardano Foundation, I think we should be using more as developers Cardano. And so the goal here is to try to solve this with these two tensions, to try to get to the point where Cardano developers use more Cardano, both under the assumption that decentralization is beneficial to the robustness of the system. It's also accountability and traceability is beneficial also to the resilience of the system by pinpointing and highlighting our role dependencies and who does what and when. And we also have a higher chance to improve and to kind of, by using our tools to improve the situation, by using our tools on a daily basis and using the chain on a daily basis, we have a higher chance of making it more usable. And everything is there, right? It's not like super. I mean, we are not suggesting to do anything super fancy or novel. Git is itself a decentralized version control system, so it's a bit sad that we are not using it in a very decentralized way. Linux development is done in the decentralized fashion. There are even tools to simplify this model of development, and I will come back to those later because I think these are great signals and they are great examples that we should potentially follow and even embrace. And there are tools for the decentralized also governance of open source. The good thing, like Cardano is really rock solid and decentralized infrastructure that we can use. It's just there, right? We have all we need. We have a network which is a permissionless global spanning network, which is 100% uptime, with 100% uptime in the past 7 years. We have state-of-the-art security, lower fees. We have a powerful smart contract language with growing library ecosystem. We can run it with reasonable resource requirements. It doesn't require a supercomputer to run. And it even provides it's even a great tool for supporting funding and governance. We have tools for that that are built into the system. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to motivate all this stuff. I hope this is kind of convincing. Maybe it's not. So with that in mind, we embarked with the HAL team into a journey toward trying to address two particular problems. So the first one is something which is not yet being worked on. It's about, let's say, software bill of material. So the idea is that, well, this is the page for the Cardano wallet on GitHub. I mean, maybe some questions you can ask is, who are these guys here? Who are they? Are they really the person they say they are? What's their, can I relate these names to some identity somewhere? Who are those people? And then another question is, okay, I see there are assets there, like archives and code and whatnot I can download. Is this something I can trust? Who signed this, and how was it signed, and when was it signed, and with which version of the code, and all this stuff? So these are questions we could potentially address and solve. This is a dependency graph of the Cardano wallet, and I could have used any other software probably in the ecosystem, but I mean, do we know whether or not this small thing here that apparently we depend on at probably the 13th level is reliable? Who is doing that? Which version is this? Can we trust this version? So basically, the idea is to try to materialize the bill of material for software, and for software, I would say related to Cardano on Cardano itself. So and this is the original idea behind this proof of provenance, and the reason why it's called proof of provenance is to materialize signed metadata using potentially identities that could be shared and could be referred to and verified and linked to on-chain and in the real world, potentially tracking new versions, signing release using identified keys, ensuring the uniqueness of artifacts, which is not the case right now for GitHub, and even more importantly, materialize the dependency between the various packages that we are manipulating. So that ideally, we will have a way to track that Cardano node version 10.4.1 depends on this Ouroboros consensus, which depends on this version of the concurrency library, and which happens to have this bug. And we know this bug there, so potentially we could track that. We could also imagine, having various applications like attesting software answering the recognition of infrastructure package. Like there is a very small package which everybody uses and relies on, but nobody is working on it. Maybe this should be raised, and the level of attention in the community and should be raised over this package. Potentially also thinking of, well, there is this nice DRIPS thing called DRIPS network, which is a way to provide funding for open source projects. And we have all these marvelous ways of fund projects, but quite centralized, right? These things around Catalyst, even the treasury budget in some ways, it's something that could be benefit from this kind of stuff. And the idea of materializing dependency graph also makes it possible to have a way of have a kind of genuine trickle-down economics, where some high-profile projects get funding, but then part of this funding is also used to trickle down and fund other maybe not so high-profile and maybe a bit more boring projects. And this will be materialized also and potentially tracked and made transparent across the chain. Another use case, which is even more smaller, but even more concrete, is something that we have been working on and the team is working on, is managing Antithesis. I won't spend too much time on this, but the core idea is that this Antithesis project we started very recently, and it's a resource where it's a tool where you can run deterministic simulation tests over a cluster, over a network of nodes. And the idea that this is a resource which is potentially usable by a lot of people in the community, and we want to provide this resource to the community, but in a controlled way, not like random access or without some form of control. And we have started working and designing a way where and more importantly, because this is a resource which is somewhat expensive, and we want to provide transparency to the community on how we use this money and who does what with the money we are in charge of. Potentially we thought of using the proof of provenance mechanism to track on chain the whole interaction with the tool. And this is a much more concrete use case, because we have started working on it and even trying to provide or sketching a tool that people would use to interact with the system. And yeah, the main benefit here is to provide some kind of transparent audit trail, and it opens up interesting opportunities around funding of critical infrastructure outside even the software itself. And even more interesting for us, because Antithesis is a tool that is supposed to provide test infrastructure for nodes and for networks, it could be a way to have I would say, a neutral and transparent way of asserting and certifying that what kind of test and what kind of against what kind of test scenarios some particular piece of software has been tested, and that could be increase the level of confidence and trust in the system. I guess I will leave it now to Paolo because I think that's the part. So how do we implement that? I think it all boils down to leveraging this nice piece of Aiken smart contract called the Merkle patch forestry with some sauce around it, and I will let Paolo explain what we have been doing there and potentially give a short demo.
Thank you, Arnaud. So before digging into the code, I will give a little bit of context about this beautiful piece of software. I think everybody knows what Merkle trees are, and if not, it's a big topic, so I wouldn't go into that. But anyway, Merkle trees and this kind of special flavor of it are making it possible to keep the data off chain and tracking the changes of the data on chain, so that we can always prove that what we have outside or we keep outside is it's not been tampered or contains exactly what is supposed to contain. So kind of very cool idea. In particular, this Patricia forestry is able to track both keys and values, and we have a couple of cases where we need also to track values. In general, supports inserting in the map and deleting from the map like normal mapping in our languages that we use. And there is a kind of, as it is, it's very useful, but also it cannot scale somehow in our use case, because blockchain, they have also other problems. One of the problem is that there is contention of resources, so we cannot update the state in concurrently. I mean, we can, but then everyone will fail, only one will succeed, and then we have to retry. So I mean, we have to synchronize the changes of these structures. So this is one problem. Then there is ownership problem. So if this data are critical for other smart contracts to use it or to take decisions, we would like to have some control over what goes inside the structures and so on. So there are kind of critical aspects of using this technology that requires a little bit of work around it. So I took some choices. One is that I want to make sure that when this mapping or this data or this knowledge starts is empty. This is one important aspect, so that whenever we look at it, whenever we start it, it doesn't contain any data. This is one first thing. And the other thing is that all the changes that are going to be applied to this knowledge, they are trackable on chain, which means like when we find this root, it's called root, it's a hash of the structure on chain. You can find it on chain and then go back in the history of the transaction that changed it and find all the changes explicitly, so that you can rebuild yourself the history of this knowledge. So all the facts, all the changes that have been, or facts that have been introduced and removed from there, they are inside transactions, and we can everybody can rebuild the knowledge on its with its tool on his machine. So to do that, there are two main concepts that were introduced. So one is using an NFT to track this root, so making sure that it is unique, and the second thing is that it is the updating of this NFT, or the content of this NFT, is controlled by a smart contract. So the smart contract will take care to keep this token at the same address forever, so that next time we want to update it, the same smart contract will check again that the rules are applied. And the second part, which is about synchronization, we want also to collect the changes that we want to do to the content at the same address. So the smart contract will also access the changes that are requested, and after some potential filtering, so this is an off-chain part, so who is the owner of the knowledge, he's responsible for deciding what goes inside, so it kind of potentially acts like an oracle, and it will collect the request that they have to go inside, and then it will create a transaction which applies all the requests to the knowledge, and so all the changes, they are kind of now contained in one transaction. So there is some chances of also being a little bit efficient with that. So at the moment we can apply 5 or 6 updates in one transaction, but it's not optimized. Probably it's possible to, I hope we can get to 10 or 20 in the end. So that's kind of the situation. So if we look from the user perspective, so now users are producing requests to change the knowledge, and then there is what we call an oracle that is responsible to update the knowledge with the request. So the oracle can still decide not to apply a request, so it's still it has some censorship power, and it can also create requests for itself, obviously, because he's itself a user. So in that sense, he can also produce false facts or facts that are not controlled, but still the knowledge it has to do it explicitly by placing request to itself. A small parenthesis, obviously, the fact that what if to trust an oracle or not, obviously, is a big topic, and we're not trying to solve it here. It would be nice also to work about it at some point, because we have Ouroboros, we have So this part, at least, which is kind of independent of the two projects that we are working towards, is kind of working. It's not like battle tested, in the sense that the on-chain part, it's difficult to test for negative cases, and I didn't do it, so it has to be done. But if you like the demo, I can try it. So I have a nice page, which I don't know if it works. It was working. Here it is tested with Yassi. So I tried to use everything that Cardano Foundation produced for developing on Cardano. So one thing is Yassi, and which turned out to be quite usable in the end. And then the other thing, obviously, we already talked about it, is this Merkle Patricia forestry. So Yassi is starting the local cluster. We can kind of see it here, I guess. Yeah, it's here. It started. And then a Yassi store, which is an indexer that we use to mostly do 2 queries, or 1 queries for now, which is getting the UTXOs which are sitting at the place where the smart contract is controlling the knowledge. So it's just 1 query. The other query is still not implemented, would be how to rebuild the knowledge by tracking backwards the transactions that change the knowledge. And the other thing that I put up is this HTTP server, which is mostly creating transactions for the user and submit them, in this case, with the Yassi store, so that we can do all the necessary operation to progress the knowledge, which is creating requests. And requests are of 2 types. So one request is for inserting, one is for deleting effect. And then we have operation to update the token, and update the token requires to select some of the requests which are sitting at the smart contract. And obviously delete also the token if it is necessary. So we'll just try to follow this. In this case, we have 3 users. Maybe we're going to use only 2 of them, but for now we'll just paste them here. Oops, they don't want to do that. Maybe I have to keep it open for some reason. I don't know. And so 3 users here, they're kind of accessing the same Yassi store, but on they are just appearing as different user of the Yassi store. So we have 3 servers controlling the Patricia thing. Yeah, there are some instructions here how to start this, and then we have to top up. So this is done kind of not very something that is not possible to do it. I don't know why it's doing like that. Let's do like this. Hello, hello.
Demo effect strikes back.
So I was expecting to do something, didn't do anything. Oh, maybe this is Bob. Okay, let's say that this is Charlie. Okay, now we can see that Charlie's wallet now has something inside. And yeah, the screen is so small. So Charlie has an address and is also an owner. This is kind of his public key hash. And also it has some UTXO and like 10 million, whatever, trillion Lovelace, whatever it is. And now because it has some money, he can obviously create tokens and obviously also create requests and so on. So for now, we just work with Charlie's wallet, and so he can create a token. A token doesn't need anything to be created because it's an empty knowledge. So you can just create it. Everyone can do that. It's not a big deal. The thing is that it will be Charlie's token. It means he is the oracle of the token. He is deciding what goes into the token. So Charlie now is creating a token. Yeah, we've been lucky. We have a token. So now the token is sitting at the address, has been minted as unique. And here the uniqueness is the asset name, not the policy ID. The policy ID is the same for all the tokens, but the asset name has been, for the asset name has been used some function of the inputs. So it's kind of fresh and unrepeatable on this blockchain. So the token is there. What does it mean? That we can now inspect the tokens, which are all sitting at the same address. I think I have something here. Oh, here is Alice checking the tokens, but Alice is offline at the moment, so we'll just change it to Charlie again. Yes, and there is only one token sitting at the address, and this root, the owner is Charlie, the token is that, and the root is 000, which means in this library means like there is nothing inside the knowledge. So now we get to the point where we want to introduce something, and we will still maybe work with Charlie. I mean, it can be, you trust me that it can be any user. And the idea is that, interestingly, we can say export token ID on this. And here you see what's a request. A request takes an operation, so you have to decide if you want to delete or insert the information. Then you have a key here. A key can be anything in this Merkle Patricia forestry, but I found that it was nice to have like a list of strings, because we can attach some form of composable semantics to it. So in reality, we have in our application, like for Antithesis, we are sampling, let's say, the users on GitHub. So it's going to be, instead of A, we have the platform GitHub. Instead of B, we have user Paulino. Instead of C, we have my public key. And instead of value, we have unit. This is the way that we can store my credentials inside the Merkle tree. Yep. So, okay, then I will not post this, so it will not fail. So once we have a request, so anyway, this is a request. When the request goes into the token, then we can inspect the token, and the token now has a different root. And but a request goes into the same space where the token is, which is like this address of the smart contract, and then the owner, which is Charlie in this case, can incorporate the request into the root. Okay, and this game goes on. The net result is then anyone can refer to the knowledge in another smart contract, or in our case, to decide or to track who used the antithesis, or I mean, it's quite composable how to use this. It's just like, yeah, we don't have much time, and there's something broken there. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Okay. I guess let's answer a question. To answer Fabian's question, I have one last slide that you can potentially use. So I will show the slide because there is a nice QR codes that you can use. Obviously we are mostly started there. Our very short-term goal is to provide some tool using this underlying technology to run requests for Antithesis, but we are really looking for more feedback from the community. and potentially explore collaboration opportunities with other teams within or outside the CF, obviously. I already had some chats with Fergal about how we could link identities on chain with Veridian's Veridian wallet identities, potentially explore ideas around integrating with Radical and even port Drips network to Cardano. And if you want to get in touch, so this is the QR code is the address of the Cardano scaling PoP repository, which contains the source code that Paolo showed. And the idea that the PoP repository will contain the underlying infrastructure, so the Merkle tree service and management and tracking, very generic stuff. And we want to have some specific repositories or tools for use cases. So the first one will be around Antithesis, and once we get there, there will be one also for integration with releases and dependency tracking. I guess that's it. I think, yeah, 45 minutes, a bit 40 minutes. Hope that's on schedule. Maybe there is a question from Mateusz. So yes, the idea that the Merkle tree is maintained on chain, and the reason why is that I think right now the idea is to separate the fact that people or arbitrary users want to interact with this and produce new data or new knowledge with the fact that there is an oracle or some entity verifying the request and tracking the legitimate, asserting the request against the real world. So potentially GitHub repositories, but could be other kind of repositories. In the case of Antithesis, it's asserting the legitimacy of the request and tracking them. So there is still some form of trust in place, but obviously we want to have more logic baked into the smart contract when accepting transitions and posting requests. But when it comes to reconstructing the facts itself, yes, it can all be done by anyone because the requests themselves will be posted on chain, and you know whether or not they are accepted. So. Yeah, an important fact also is that the data is not stored on chain. Like the UTXO at the end of the day contains just a hash value, obviously, but through the transaction, you can reconstruct the data.
So I was also thinking of a question.
Yes.
So can this also solve the problem where I think the answer is yes, where just one entity is kind of, or one person is kind of in control of a whole organization? If we talk about GitHub, for example, sometimes it's only one person. I mean, the organization has multiple members or something, but then there's only one administrator. Mm-hmm. If you would track or even track software changes and then also have a control over the changes by multi-sig wallet, and then you could rotate keys, and then you could have something like 5 out of 7.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. It's really cool.
So I think we're making it simple now, but the oracle itself can be arbitrarily complicated. It could be, it could be a multi-sig, it could be even a smart contract, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the key insights is that the idea is to separate some two roles, which is I'm asserting something about the real world, and there is other entity which is kind of attesting and also certifying this truth or this assertion. And having this kind of two roles seems rather natural, especially at the end of the day when it comes to code repositories and so on. The oracle is just a way to link to provide, to make sure that what you post on chain is actually linked to something in the real world, but this link can be proven in the sense like if I say, okay, I have released this software at this version with this hash value, and the artifact is at some IPFS address, whatever, the role of the Oracle is just to say, yes, this is the case, and then you can easily verify whether or not the Oracle is lying to you. So, and so in the end, yes, we could totally make the Oracle be something like a multi-sig or something.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Arnaud. Thank you, Paolo, for sharing.